Vishnupad Ashtatarashatashmad Śrīla Bhakti-vedanta Narayan Gosvāmī Mahārāja Śrīla Gurudeva ki jai. Nitil Pavishtam Vishnupad Ashtatarashatashmad Śrīla Bhakti-vedanta Vaman Gosvāmī Mahārāja ki jai. Nitil Pavishtam Vishnupad Ashtatarashatashmad Śrīla Bhakti-vedanta Swami Mahārāja Śrīla Prabhupada ki jai. Nitil Pavishtam Vishnupad Ashtatarashatashmad Śrīla Bhakti Pragyan Keśava-vrata Mahārāja ki jai. Nitil Pavishtam Vishnupad Ashtatarashatashmad Śrīla Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Gosvāmī Prabhupada ki jai. Nitil Pavishta Mahabhagavat Śrīla Glorifications Bābājī Mahārāja ki jai. Nitil Pavishta Śrīla Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur ki jai. Nitil Pavishta Vaishnav Sarvabhauma Śrīla Jagannatha Bābājī Mahārāja ki jai. Śrī Rupanu Gauriya Guru Varga ki jai. Śrī Rup Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath Śrī Jeev Gopal Bhatta Dashagunath Śrāda Gosvāmī Prabhu ki jai. Śrī Sarup Damodar Rai Ramanandari Śrī Gaur Parshad Vrinda ki jai. Namachay Śrīla Haridas Thakur ki jai. Prem se kaho Śrī Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Śrī Advaita Gadadhar Śrī Vasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Śrī Kshetra Mandala Gaura Mandala Vraja Mandala Mathura Vrindavan Dham ki jai. Sarva Abhishta Pradata Giriraj Maharaj ki jai. Śrī Radha Kunda Shama Kund ki jai. Śrī Muna Devi Ganga Devi ki jai. Śrī Tulsi Maharani Vrinda Devi ki jai. Śrī Bhakti Devi ki jai. Śrī Purnamasi Yogamaya ki jai. Śrī Gopeshwar Mahadev ki jai. Śrī Harinam Sankirtan ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Samagata Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Śrī Kṛṣṇadāsa Bābājī Mahārāja ki jai. Tadiya Shubha Tirabhav Titi ki jai. Shinitai Gaura Premanande Hari Hari Bo. Okay, so now first we'll sing our Keśava-vrata kirtans. First, Śrī Vrindadevi Ashtakam by Śrīla Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. O Gangeya Champeya Tare Dvinindi Rochi Pravaha Snapitatma Vrinde Bandhu ka bandhu Duti Devavasa Vrinde Namaste Charanaravindam Bimbadharode Tvaramandahasya Nasagramukta Duti Dipitase Vichitraratna Bharana Shriyade Vrinde Namaste Charanaravindam Samasta Vaikunta Shiromano Shri Krishnasya Vrindavana Dhanyadani Tatadhikare Vrishabhanuputra Vrinde Namaste Charanaravindam Tadagya Palava Pushpa Bringa Mrigadibir Madhava Kelikunja Madhvadibir Bhanti Vibhushamana Vrinde Namaste Charanaravindam Tvati Adutena Nekunjayono Atyutkayot Keli Vidasa Siddhi Tatsobhagham Kena Niruchatang Tadvrinde Namaste Charanaravindam Rasa Vilasho Vasatishta Vrindavane Tvarishangri Saroja Seva Labhya Chapungsam Kripaya Tavaiva Vrinde Namaste Charanaravindam Tvam Kirtase Satvata Tantra Virvir Lila Vidhana Kila Krishna Shaktis Tavaiva Murtis Tulasi Nriloke Vrinde Namaste Charanaravindam Bhakta Vihina Aparadha Lakshai Kshiptashtaka Madhitarangamarde Kripa Mai Tvam Sharanam Prapanna Vrinde Namaste Charanaravindam Vrindashtakamya Shrinuyat Paterva Vrindavanatishapadabjabringa Saprapya Vrindavananitavasam Tat prema Sevam labate kritartha Vrinde namaste Charanaravindam Vrinde namaste Charanaravindam Jaya Vrinda Devi Jaya Vrinda Devi Vrinda Devi Jai Vrinda Devi Jaya Tulsi Maharani Jaya Vrinda Devi Tulsi Maharani Jai Vrinda Devi. Śrī Keśava-vrata by Śrīla Rupa Gosvāmī. I'm not sure if it's there. It might be here. Navapriyaka manjari rachita karna purashriya Penetra taramalati kalita shekare nojvala Darojvasita yuthika kratita valgovai kakshaka Vraje vijayinam bhaje Vipina deshata Keśava Pishangi manikastane Pranata shringi pinge kshane Mridanga mukhi dhumale Shabali hangsi vangsi priye Iti swasuravikula Taralamavayantam mura Vraje vijayinam bhaje Vipina deshata Keśava Ghana pranaya meduran Madhura narma goshti kala Vilasa nilayan milay Vivida vesha vedotina Satyena kila saraya Patishuhasayantam gira Vraje vijayinam bhaje Vipina deshata Keśava Shamambukanikavali Dharavilida gandantara Samura giri dhatubir Alikita charupantrankura Udancharali mandali Duti vidam vivakralaka Vraje vijayinam bhaje Avipina deshata Keśava Nipadda navatarnaka Vali vilokanotkanthaya Nathat kura putanchalar Alugubir bhuvam bindate Kalena davala khatam Lagu nirvartayantam puro Vraje vijayinam bhaje Vipina deshata Keśava Padankatati birvaram Virachayantam advashriya Chalatarala naichiki Nichaya doli domrasaja Marulla hari chanchale Krita dukula chudanchala Vraje vijayinam bhaje Avipina deshata Keśava Vilasamurali kala Vani birullasan manasa Kshanara kila vallavi Apulakayantamantargrihe Muhur vidadata hridi Pramuditancha goshteshware Vraje vijayinam bhaje Avipina deshata Keśava Upeta pati sundari Tati virabhiravyarchita Smitankura pitar Natarapanga bhangi shatai Stanastavaka sanchara nayana chanchari kanchalam braje vijayinam bhaje vipina deshata Keśava idam nikila ballavi kola mahotsavo lasano Kramena kilaya puman patati shushtupadashtaka Tamojvala diyang sada nijapadaravinda tvaye ratim tadada chanchala sukayatar vishakasaka Raje vijayinam bhaje vipina deshata Keśava 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 Jaya Keśava-dev, 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 Jaya Keśava-dev, Jaya Keśava-dev, 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 Jaya Keśava-dev. All right, so now Haribol Ekanishta Sachi Didi, Kirtida Didi, Rukmini Didi, Nancy Didi, Nancy Naidu, Mamatesh Krishna Bharadwaj, Rukmini, Dandavat pranams to all of you. Okay, so now we're going to read about Śrīla Kṛṣṇadāsa Bābājī Mahārāja, whose disappearance day it is today. Let me just open it up. Okay. So this is an excerpt from this book called My Beloved Masters by Śrīla Bhakti Vijñāna Bharatī Gosvāmī Mahārāja. And this was composed under the editorship of Śrī Śrīmad Bhakti Pramod Puri Gosvāmī Mahārāja. So here is a picture of a Śrīmad Kṛṣṇadāsa Bābājī Mahārāja. Very beautiful, huh? So Nam Siddha, he was perfect in chanting the holy name. Śrī Śrīla Kṛṣṇadāsa Bābājī Mahārāja appeared in a highly educated, respected family of physicians. He attended Dhaka University and completed a Bachelor of Arts degree before taking shelter of the most worshipful Srila Prabhupada's holy feet, sometime between 1925 and 1926. The brahmachari name his Gurudev gave him was Śrī Śrīmad Das. Let me say that again. Śrī Śrīmad Das Brahmachari. In the Mat, we have a long since and repeatedly In the Mat, we have long since and repeatedly witnessed Śrīla Bābājī Mahārāja's profound attachment to performing Nam Bhajan day and night. He also possessed a remarkably powerful memory. We were always amazed to hear the many Sanskrit prayers and hymns he could recite, which are so numerous that it would be impossible to cover them all in a full month of non-stop recitation. He memorized by heart Shri Krishna Karnamrita, Ras Panchadhyay, Brahma Stuti, Stavavali, many songs from Stavamala, Virudhavali, Vilap Kusmanjali, and many more Sanskrit compositions. He would somehow recite all these prayers daily and chant 100,000 names of Bhagavan. Pujapad Tridandi Goswami Śrīmad Bhakti Hriday Van Maharaj used to call him Nam Siddha, are realized in the holy names. His Sanskrit pronunciation was strikingly beautiful, as well as crystal clear, and his voice was very sweet. He was also proficient in playing mridanga. Have you ever heard the recordings of him singing? It was so beautiful. Maybe I can play one if I get a chance. Never inclined to argue. Srila Bābājī Mahārāja's Vaishnava humility and renunciation were exemplary, and his character was pious and dignified. Never was there a day when he was seen expressing anger, violence, or hatred. If anyone would say anything to him in anger, he would simply respond with Hare Krishna and laugh. He was never inclined to argue with anyone. A prime recipient of Bhakti Devi's mercy. The scriptures state, Krishna Bhakte, Krishna Guna, Sakali Sanchare. Shri Krishna infuses his devotees with all of his qualities. This was always glaringly apparent in Srila Bābājī Mahārāja's character. He was a prime recipient of the mercy of Bhakti Devi, the goddess of devotion, who is the empress of all virtues. All the demigods took up residence within him, as he is replete with all good qualities. His beautiful mouth pronounced the names of Hari at every moment. Ajata Shatru. Practically, all of the Vaishnavas of the Math loved Srila Bābājī Mahārāja. Śrīmad Bhakti Dait Madhav Mahārāja had great affection for him. Drawn by his affection, Bābājī Mahārāja resided in many of his mats and participated in various festivals and pilgrimages, thus repeatedly pleasing Śrī Madhav Mahārāja. Prior to entering into his unmanifest pastimes at his bhajan kutir in Nandagram, Srila Bābājī Mahārāja used to stay at our Sri Chaitanya Gaudiya Math branch in Sri Dham Vrindavan. However, his most beloved place to perform bhajan was a tiny secluded chamber in the original Akar Mataraj Sri Chaitanya Math in Sri Dham Mayapur, on the third floor of the Bhakti Vijay Bhavan, the bhajan kuti of Srila Prabhupada. Aside from there, in whichever math he visited among the many of all over India, he would always look for a quiet place to perform his bhajan. He was the living example of the words of the great personalities before us. Dekho bhai naam bina, dina nahi jai. Look, brother, let not a single day go by without the chanting of Naam. He never spent his time in useless conversation. He was ajata shatru, that is, he never considered anyone as his enemy. Today, the more I remember him, the deeper and deeper I feel his absence, and my heart becomes exceedingly distraught. During parikrama, I often had the good fortune of sharing lodgings with him. It was then I saw how he sat and chanted Naam throughout the night, and recited the countless verses he knew. Although he would sing the holy names while playing mridanga for the entire distance of our parikrama, I never saw him become even a little fatigued. He was always smiling, constantly immersed in contemplation of Bhagavan. Many wealthy people would give Srila Bābājī Mahārāja money and expensive things, but he would never keep any of it for himself. Instead, he would distribute those items for the service of Bhagavan and the Vaishnavas. He usually wore just a short knee-length garment around his waist, and he kept a simple bed mat and sheet. He gladly went through the harsh cold of winters with a simple blanket while wearing an ever-smiling face, always satisfied at heart. A person who is constantly immersed in contemplation of Bhagavan does not notice the goings-on around him. The personification of Turnada Pisunichena. Srila Bābājī Mahārāja was never eager for any material gain, worship, or prestige. Indeed, he did not long for such things at all. It was as if he was the personification of the Turnada P verse as instructed by Srimad Mahaprabhu. Alas, now that I have lost the company of such an exemplary Vaishnava who took such great delight in the worship of the holy names, Who knows how long I'll have to endure the hellish torture of this unlucky life on the earthly plane. I just want to check one thing. Okay, so this was written by Srila Bhakti Vijñāna Bharatī Gosvāmī Mahārāja under the editorship of Śrī Śrīmad Bhakti Purī Gosvāmī Mahārāja. Just wanted to make sure it wasn't Srila Bhakti Purī Gosvāmī Mahārāja. Okay. A propagator of the Maha Mantra. The stickers Srila Bābājī Mahārāja printed in Hindi and Bengali about the principle of Kirtaniya Sada Hari and Maha Mantra can be seen almost everywhere in Sri Vraj Mandal, in many places in Sri Gaura Mandal and Sri Kshetra Mandal, as well as in all of our branches of Sri Chaitanya Gaudiya Math. Reading or even seeing these stickers always brings to mind the sweet memories of him. There are also many places in Vraj where he There are also many places in Vraj where he propagated these teachings by means of stone etchings. That's so cool. He used to go around putting stickers of the Maha Mantra everywhere. And Kirtaniya Sadahari. Sorry. His very dear songs. Very dear to Srila Bābājī Mahārāja. God, my throat. Sorry, let me just clear my throat one more time. God. Okay. Uh-oh, I think I almost got the hiccups. Okay. Sometimes when I clear my throat in a certain way, I get the hiccups. It's really strange. Okay, so his very dear songs. Very dear to Srila Bābājī Mahārāja were the many songs written by the presiding Acharya of Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Math and Sri Dham Navadip, the most venerable Tridandi Swami Śrī Śrīmad Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Gosvāmī Mahārāja, such as Śrī Śrīla Prabhupada Padma Stavaka, Śrīmad Bhakti Viraha Dashakam, Śrī Śrī Daita Dasa Dashakam, Śrī Śrīmad Gaura Kishore Namaskar Dashakam, and the 70 verses of Śrī Śrī Prem Dhama Deva Stotram, especially the following verse. Oh God, let me see what the meter is for this. Krishna 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 Nama Kirtanam. Krishna 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 Nama Kirtanam. Rama Rama Gana Ramya Devya Chanda Nartanam. Yatra Yatra Krishna Nama Dhanaloka Nistaranam. Prema Dhama Devameva Nomi Gaura Sundaram. Śrī Śrī Prema Dhama Deva Stotra, verse 22. I venerate that Lord, the abode of love, the abode of love Gaurasundar, who always danced as he sang the names Krishna, 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 and Ram, Ram in beautiful melodies. Wherever he went, he bestowed the names of Krishna and delivered the people of that place. He often sang the above verse as well as one of the lines from Sri Srila Prabhupada's song Vaishnav Ke. Karo uchai sware Hari Nama Rava. Chant the names of Sri Hari at the top of your voice. His indomitable enthusiasm for practicing and preaching Harinam. Srila Bābājī Mahārāja printed a small booklet containing a collection of teachings of Srimad Mahaprabhu and his dear associates, the Gosvāmis, regarding Nam Bhajan. He would distribute this booklet everywhere, free of charge, and give it to others to distribute as well. He was possessed of indomitable enthusiasm when it came to the practice and preaching of Sri Harinam. Krishna was very merciful to have granted us the fortune of associating with a Vaishnava so dedicated to the holy names. Today, it is a matter of great misfortune that we have been deprived of his company. But as it is said, Swatantra Krishnar Icha Hoilo Sangha Bhanga. It is by the independent will of Krishna that my association with him has been severed. Our last interaction. During Brajmandal Parikrama last Kartik, when we had his audience at that same Bhajan Kutir in Nandagram, he repeatedly declared, "I will not go anywhere else." Nandagram was time and again the place he chose as most favorable for his bhajan. Hence, Sri Hari, who is a wish-fulfilling tree, granted him the eternal shelter of his lotus feet at that very place. Being a Vaishnav, Śrīla Bābājī Mahārāja saw no faults in others. All I pray is that he may, out of his good nature, purify me of the various offenses and mistakes I committed at his feet, either knowingly or unknowingly. Our prayer at his lotus feet. It is our misfortune that one by one, Srila Prabhupada's intimate associates are all leaving to that eternal abode to render eternal service at his beautiful lotus feet, thereby depriving us of the great fortune of their company. As Śrīla Bābājī Mahārāja has recently entered those eternal pastimes, my sole prayer at his lotus feet is to accord me the ability to very soon serve the lotus feet of my eternally worshipful Guru Pad Padma. Wow, beautiful. His attempts to educate us. By leaving this world, Śrīla Prabhupada's disciples are attempting to educate us. As it is said, Shesha Stavaram Ichanti Kim Ashcharyam Ata Param. The greatest wonder is that people think that they will live forever, despite the inevitability of death. Or as Lakshman has said, Nishvase Naiva Vishvasa Kadarudho Bhavishyati. One cannot trust when one might stop breathing. But we are so unfortunate that even after listening and witnessing these lessons, we are unable to learn them, and thus continue to act in ignorance. Published in Sri Chaitanya Vani, Year 22, Volume 4. Okay, here is another excerpt from this book, My Beloved Masters by Śrī Śrīmad Bhakti Vijñāna Bharatī Gosvāmī Mahārāja. Here's another picture of him. I wonder if I read this in the wrong order. Anyhow, sorry about that, if I did. Receiving Diksha initiation. Generally, Srila Prabhupada would grant Diksha mantras to aspiring devotees only on the specific recommendation of senior devotees. Prior to awarding Diksha, the birth names of the aspiring initiates would be noted in a register. Alongside each of those names, Srila Prabhupada would personally choose and write a suitable Vaishnav name to be conferred to each aspiring devotee. On the day Śrī Śrīmad Kṛṣṇadāsa Bābājī Mahārāja was to receive Diksha, Srila Prabhupada had written down the name Śrī Sarveshwar Das Brahmachari beside his previous name. When Srila Bābājī Mahārāja presented himself in Srila Prabhupada's quarters to receive the mantras, a devotee mistakenly told him that he would not be receiving Diksha that day. Srila Bābājī Mahārāja replied, "It is only appropriate that things proceed according to my adhikar, my qualification. It is quite sufficient for me to learn how to properly honor and chant the Harinam I have most mercifully received." Overhearing this, Srila Prabhupada awarded him Diksha, but changed the name he had written from Sarveshwar to Swadhikarananda, which means he who delights in his qualification. Interesting, that's how he got the name. I was thinking that was a really interesting name. Simple living, high thinking. Srila Bābājī Mahārāja perfectly exemplified the maxim Sada Jivan Ucha Vichar. Simple living, high thinking. On his upper body he wore a patua, an armless shirt with 2 pockets sewn onto the front, and around his waist he wore a short knee-length cloth. Is he wearing it now? No, he's not wearing a shirt. Sorry. Is this kirtan outside too loud? Anyways, it's going to be over soon. In the winter, he found it sufficient to wrap himself in a simple blanket and go about his business. Although he always accepted others' gifts, he rarely used them for himself. Instead, he would distribute them among the Vaishnavas in Vrindavan. Śrīla Bābājī Mahārāja would say, Śrī Narad Rishi instructed the hunter Mrigali to break and throw away his bow, give up all concerns for his livelihood, and simply perform bhajan. After promising he would arrange for all Mrigali's necessities, Śrī Narad Rishi left that place. When he returned 6 months later, Mrigali said, Gurudev, please do not send so many things. Shri Devarshi Narad told him to use whatever he needed and to distribute the rest. I have taken the lesson of this story to heart. I consider all the items people give me as having been sent by my Guru Pad Padma as manifestations of his mercy. I never think that a particular person per se is giving these items to me. Rather, I consider such donors as postmen sent by my Gurudev to deliver various items on his behalf. Whatever I need, I keep, and whatever I have no use for, I distribute to other devotees. His carefree detachment. A Vrajvasi once donated a piece of land to Śrīla Bābājī Mahārāja in Ramanureti, Vrindavan. With the assistance of a few devotees, Śrīla Bābājī Mahārāja secured construction materials like bricks, gravel, sand, stone, and cement, and had them delivered to the site. However, when he visited the land just a couple days before the scheduled cornerstone laying ceremony, the brother of the donor approached Śrīla Bābājī Mahārāja and said, The land my brother donated to you was not this lot, but actually the adjacent lot. Please construct your bhajan kutir over there. When Śrīla Bābājī Mahārāja heard this, he said, Forget it, brother. I have no need for a bhajan kutir. My godbrothers have many places of their own, and they readily offer me shelter at their lotus feet. If I am faced with issues before the construction of my own place has even begun, I can only imagine the grief I should expect in the future. Please keep this land for yourself. Hare Krishna. As Śrīla Bābājī Mahārāja turned to leave, the old man told him, Wait, at least take all your building materials with you. You can use them elsewhere. Keep them, Śrīla Bābājī Mahārāja replied. They are now yours. When Śrīla Bābājī Mahārāja told me about this incident, he remarked, The nature of material possessions is such that the greed to own them causes conflict between even brothers. Śrīla Bābājī Mahārāja was so detached that he was completely disinterested to meet the donor of that land even once. He thought it to be a waste of time. Inspiring grand service while remaining possessionless. Once, while Śrīla Bābājī Mahārāja was visiting the house of Shri Banavadi Lal Singhania in Kolkata, he performed kirtan throughout the entire night. In the morning, Shri Banavadi Lal Singhania's niece told her father, Srimati Radharani was dancing to the beat of Bābājī Mahārāja's kirtan the entire time he sang. Later that morning, when Shri Banavadi Lal Singhania ji tried to offer Śrīla Bābājī Mahārāja a donation, Śrīla Bābājī Mahārāja said to him, I have no need for anything. If you truly want to offer some service, then arrange to build a temple at that place of my Guru Pad Padma's appearance in Sri Jagannath Puri, which Sri Madhav Maharaj has acquired. Shri Banavadi Lal Singhania ji began to cry. When his sister-in-law asked him why he was crying, he told her everything and considered. I am sure the three of us, my father, my brother, and I, can manage to build a temple. After consulting with his family, it was decided that they would surely construct a temple there. In this way, Śrīla Bābājī Mahārāja's encouragement and inspiration accomplished such a great service, though he himself was possessionless and maintained his life by begging alms. Sweetly welcoming a godbrother. In 1956, Guru Maharaj traveled to Mathura from Kolkata in a reserved coach accompanied by a large group of devotees to lead the Śrī Chaitanya Gaudiya Math's Śrī Vrajamandal Parikrama. Along with Śrī Dinabandhu Das Bābājī Mahārāja, Śrīla Kṛṣṇadāsa Bābājī Mahārāja traveled to Mathura railway station all the way from his residence at Śrīla Sanatana Gosvāmī's Bhajan Kutir in Nandagram. When Guru Maharaj and his party arrived at the station, Śrīla Bābājī Mahārāja jubilantly welcomed them by performing exceptionally beautiful sankirtan and sweetly playing the mridanga. He used to say, Sri Madhav Maharaj is especially venerable for having carefully protected the tradition of performing Śrī Vrajamandal Parikrama, a practice Srila Prabhupada had earlier re-established. His heart-touching kirtan. There's another picture of him. In 1962, after the conclusion of the Kumbh Mela in Haridwar, it so happened that by chance, Guru Maharaj and the presiding Acharya of Śrī Chaitanya Math traveled to Dehradun at the same time with separate preaching parties. It was during this time in Dehradun that Śrīla Kṛṣṇadāsa Bābājī Mahārāja left the Chaitanya Math's party. He left the Śrī Chaitanya Math party and, with his little bundle of bedding in hand, met with Guru Maharaj at Gita Bhavan. Guru Maharaj was just finishing his morning lecture when Śrīla Bābājī Mahārāja arrived. Seeing him, Guru Maharaj became overwhelmingly delighted and called out, Bābājī Mahārāja, Madhurena Samapayat. With sweetness we conclude. Please retire this assembly with your melodious kirtan. Śrīla Bābājī Mahārāja then sang Sake Kalaya Gauram Udaram. At that time, my godbrother Sri Bhakti Prasad Puri Maharaj said to me, Sanskrit kirtans like this do not suit the audience here. Who will understand its meaning? Only Nam kirtans like Radhe, Radhe, Govinda, Govinda, Radhe will be appreciated. I did not respond to this, but remained silent. When Śrīla Bābājī Mahārāja concluded the kirtan by chanting the Mahamantra, the in-charge of Gita Bhavan, an elderly gentleman wearing large pendant earrings, jumped to his feet and called out, Sohna, Sohna! What is he saying? I asked Sri Puri Maharaj. Sohna is Punjabi for very beautiful, he replied. I then asked, you are saying that Śrīla Bābājī Mahārāja's kirtan would not be well received here, and that no one would understand it. If this is the case, why is this person saying very beautiful? Is he not Punjabi? Yes, he is Punjabi, he said, but I do not have an answer to your question. The next day, Guru Maharaj asked another person, an expert singer, to perform kirtan before his class. 2 minutes into the kirtan, the same elderly person stood up and with folded hands said, Please request Bābājī Mahārāja to sing. Although we do not understand the words he sings, his voice touches our hearts. Guru Maharaj then asked Śrīla Bābājī Mahārāja to perform kirtan. Śrīla Bābājī Mahārāja sang Namami Nanda Nandanam, Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhavadaite, Kṛṣṇadeva Bhavantam Vande, and other Sanskrit kirtans, and everyone listening was immensely pleased. After the kirtan, I told Sri Puri Maharaj, according to my understanding, there are 3 reasons these people appreciate Śrīla Bābājī Mahārāja's kirtan, despite having no understanding of Sanskrit. Firstly, Bhagavan himself has said, Mar bhakta yatra gayanti tatra tishtami naradha. I am present wherever my devotees sing my glories. Having become anyabhilashita shunyam, are free from even the slightest tinge of extraneous desires, Śrīla Bābājī Mahārāja performs kirtan from the core of his heart, and thereby engages in anukulyena Krishnanushilanam, a favorable activity performed purely for the pleasure of Sri Krishna. His kirtan is therefore fully capable of compelling Sri Bhagavan, the embodiment of bliss, to appear and turn this place into his residence, Goloka Vrindavan. When the embodiment of bliss is personally present, isn't it only logical that everyone present will experience bliss, directly or indirectly? Secondly, it is said, Smarantas marayantascha mito gogha haram harim, bhaktya sanjataya bhaktya bhibratyut pulakam tanum. Śrīmad Bhagavatam 11.3.31. The devotees remember and remind one another of Sri Hari, the remover of all misfortune. Thus their devotion causes the appearance of devotion in others, and their bodies become agitated with ecstasy, with the hairs of their bodies standing on end. According to this verse, Bhakti is infused in the heart by the Bhakti already present in another's heart. Although language is essential in communicating matters of the heart, for one whose heart is devoid of Bhakti, mere knowledge of language is insufficient to inspire Bhakti in the hearts of others. It is only because of the pure Bhakti present in the heart of one. It is only because of the pure Bhakti present in the heart that one's words are infused with divine power. Only then is it possible for Bhakti to be transmitted to the hearts of one's listeners, and only then will the listeners feel inspired to render devotional service. Thirdly, Bābājī Mahārāja's kirtan is the very embodiment of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's words, Hriday hoite bole, jivara agrete chale, shabda rupe kore nritya. When one speaks from one's heart, Krishna dances on one's tongue in the form of sound. It is for this reason that Bābājī Mahārāja's kirtan touches the hearts of those who hear it. His unpretentious, easygoing nature. One time, Srila Bābājī Mahārāja joined the Rajmandal Parikrama party while we were camped at Sri Brahmanda Ghat. At that time, I was charged with the service of managing suitable lodgings for the pilgrimages. I was charged with managing the service of managing suitable lodgings for the pilgrims, and was staying in a rather humble shed-like structure. Upon seeing my simple shelter, Srila Bābājī Mahārāja decided that it was favorable for his bhajan, and so he also set up his bedding there, next to mine. I was immediately apprehensive. He is like a guru to me, I thought. It is inappropriate for me to stay with him, as if he is some familiar roommate. Remaining honest, I humbly told him, Bābājī Mahārāja, your sleep is likely to be disturbed if you stay here, because I get up many times during the night to check on the camp patrol. Please allow me to arrange a more suitable place for you. No, Srila Bābājī Mahārāja said, you will not disturb me. Perform your service without any worry for my comfort. During those nights together, I observed that no matter how many times I got up and came back, Srila Bābājī Mahārāja would be sitting upright in his mosquito net, chanting Harinam Mahamantra the whole night through. He chanted in a very soft voice, so as to not disturb the devotees nearby. He was always incredibly sensitive and considerate when it came to the convenience of devotees. His exemplary humility. Srila Bābājī Mahārāja always remained equipoised. He did not respond to praise with immodesty, gushing like milk boiling over, or by becoming puffed up like an inflated balloon. nor he would flare up into a fit of rage at criticism. In either situation, he would simply say, Hare Krishna, and move on. Once, one of his godbrothers wrote him an insulting letter in language quite unbefitting a Vaishnava. Srila Bābājī Mahārāja responded by writing, O Vaishnav Thakur, you have written the truth because you really love and care for me. Previously, you used to encourage me through praise, but through your recent letter, you have bestowed your most sincere mercy upon me. Srila Bābājī Mahārāja was always absorbed in the most exemplary humility. A friend to all. Srila Bābājī Mahārāja was Ajat Shatru. In other words, he never considered anyone to be his adversary. Ajat means unborn, and Shatru means enemy, so whose enemy has not yet been born. Although he divided most of his time between the association of Śrī Śrīmad Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Gosvāmī Mahārāja, Śrī Śrīmad Bhakti Hriday Ban Gosvāmī Mahārāja, Śrī Śrīmad Bhakti Vilas Tirtha Gosvāmī Mahārāja, and Guru Maharaj, he would freely visit all his godbrothers without any inhibition whatsoever. The bond between Srila Bābājī Mahārāja and Guru Maharaj was especially thick. His postcards to Guru Maharaj would always begin with the words, to the supremely merciful Shripad Madhav Maharaj. and they never consisted of more than a couple sentences. Those who read his letters or heard him speak were thoroughly convinced that he was entirely indifferent to discussing worldly matters. Performing kirtan during Guru Mahārāja's disappearance pastime. Śrīla Bābājī Mahārāja was well known for savoring the taste of Krishna Nam, as he was constantly performing kirtan wherever he went. He was particularly keen on performing kirtan of Śrī Krishna Nam Mahamantra, and he would become so overjoyed to hear others chanting it that his eyes and face would blossom. A few days before Guru Maharaj manifested his disappearance pastime, Śrīla Bābājī Mahārāja came to the Kolkata branch of Śrī Chaitanya Gaudiya Math. Every day during his stay, he would sit nearby Guru Maharaj and deeply absorb himself in performing kirtan. The night before Guru Maharaj entered Nitya Lila, Śrīla Bābājī Mahārāja performed Hari Kirtan in the Gaudiya library adjoining Guru Maharaj's Bhajan Kutir all night long in a mood of painful separation. When Śrī Śrīmad Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Gosvāmī Maharaj heard of this, he said, I too wish to leave this world while listening to the kirtan of Śrī Kṛṣṇadāsa Bābājī Mahārāja, who is perfected in chanting the holy name. When Śrīla Bābājī Mahārāja saw that Guru Maharaj's disciples were suddenly without shelter, he overwhelmed us with boundless affection and encouraged us from the core of his heart to preach the message of Śrī Śrī Guru Gauranga, mercifully granting me the opportunity to serve him. Once, when Śrīla Bābājī Mahārāja enacted the pastime of becoming ill, I stayed with him for some days after he was admitted to a hospital in Delhi. When I was informed I had to leave for some other urgent service, I engaged my godbrother Shri Naveen Madan Brahmachari in his service. After completing my service elsewhere, I returned to the hospital to serve Śrīla Bābājī Mahārāja. Upon my arrival, he softly told me, "When you serve me, I do not feel the slightest bit awkward or hesitant. I prefer your service over that of all others." By enacting the pastime of falling ill, Śrīla Bābājī Mahārāja, who would rarely accept the service from anyone, bestowed great blessings upon me by granting me the opportunity to serve him. Wow, that was beautiful. Jai Śrīla Kṛṣṇadāsa Bābājī Mahārāja ki Jai. Now we'll end with a little kirtan. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Gurudeva, Jaya Gurudeva, Gurudeva, Jaya Gurudeva, Jaya Gurudeva, 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 Jaya Gurudeva. Jaya Sapashara Śrīla Prabhupada, Sapashara Śrīla Prabhupada, Jaya Sapashara Śrīla Prabhupada, Sapashara Śrīla Prabhupada. Jai Kṛṣṇadāsa, Jai Bābājī Mahārāja, Kṛṣṇadāsa, Śrīla Bābājī Mahārāja, Jaya Kṛṣṇadāsa Bābājī Mahārāja, Kṛṣṇadāsa, Śrīla Bābājī Mahārāja. Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Jai Shri Shri Guru Gauranga Gandharvika Giridhari Shri Shri Radha Vinod Bihari Ju ki jai. Shri Govinda Gopinath Maran Mohan Ju ki jai. Nitil Pavishtam Vishnupad Ashtatara Shatashmat Śrīla Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Gosvāmī Mahārāja Śrīla Gurudeva ki jai. Nitil Pavishtam Vishnupad Ashtatara Shatashmat Śrīla Bhakti Vedanta Vaman Gosvāmī Mahārāja ki jai. Nitil Pavishtam Vishnupad Ashtatara Shatashmat Śrīla Bhakti Vedanta Swāmī Mahārāja Śrīla Prabhupada ki jai. Nitil Pavishtam Vishnupad Ashtatara Shatashmat Śrīla Bhakti Pragyan Keśava-vrata Mahārāja ki jai. Nitil Pavishtam Vishnupad Ashtatara Shatashmat Śrīla Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Gosvāmī Prabhupada ki jai. Nitil Pavishta Mahabhagavat Śrīla Kṛṣṇadāsa Bābājī Mahārāja ki jai. Nitil Pavishta Śrīla Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur ki jai. Nitil Pavishta Vaishnav Sarvabhauma Śrīla Jagannathas Bābājī Mahārāja ki jai. Shri Rupano Gauriya Guru Varga ki jai. Shri Rup Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath, Shri Jeev Gopal Patadash Raghunath Sharda Goswāmī Prabhu ki jai. Shri Sarup Damodar Rai Ramanandari Shri Gaur Parshad Vrinda ki jai. Namacharya Śrīla Haridas Thakur ki jai. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Shri Kshetra Mandal, Gaura Mandal, Vraja Mandal, Mathura Vrindavan Dham ki jai. Sarva Abhishta Bharata Giriraj Maharaj ki jai. Shri Radha Kund Shama Kund ki jai. Shri Muna Devi Ganga Devi ki jai. Shri Tulsi Maharani Vrinda Devi ki jai. Shri Bhakti Devi ki jai. Shri Purnamasi Yoga Maya ki jai. Shri Gopeshwar Mahadev ki jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Shri Nitil Pavishta Om Vishnupad Shri Śrīmad Kṛṣṇadāsa Bābājī Mahārāja ki jai. Tadiya Shubha Tirubhav Titi ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Samagata Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Shri Nitai Gaura Premanande Hari Hari Bo. Dandavat pranams. Thank you for joining.